Hello, beautiful seekers and friends, and welcome to our Virgo new moon magic discussion. I am so excited to sit down with you today, go through the energies of this gorgeous new moon and how to work with it. And a lot of big themes came up for me with this moon. This is a visionary new moon. This is one that is very tied to Uranian energy, which is about breaking out of patterned routine behaviors, seeing our lives with fresh eyes, opening our hearts, opening our creative vision. And so we're going to be getting into all of those themes, and I'm really excited to talk about it because this new moon has got trining all across the sky the night of this new moon. The couple days of this new moon, there's just tons of trining in the sky, which means that planets are in these symbiotic, helpful relationship conversations where it's all about how can we innovate? How can we come up with new ways of seeing? How can we come up with new ways of approaching life? And so with that in mind, I just want to say, this new moon is going to help us. If you have been somebody who's struggling with despair, disempowerment, agitation, almost a sense of self-sabotage, just feeling like things are like a struggle or they're not getting better, or you're just feeling bombarded by the energy of the world right now, I'm hoping that this new moon can kind of help you come back into some caring for your connection to spirit, and that can, lead you forward into some joyful or at least innovative thinking as we move forward. I know that I've had my own moments with feeling disempowered or overwhelmed by the world, and I found that in the notes that were coming up for me, these are really helpful little places to kind of just ask yourself some questions, connect in, and reestablish that soulful connection, because Virgo season is an important season for that, an important season for really taking care of our connection to our soul song, to our spirit, to our wholeness and self. So let's get into this, and I'll just kind of one by one go through the big themes that were coming up for me during this new moon meditation today. So the sun and moon are at 14 degrees of Virgo, and they are perfectly trining Uranus in Taurus. So we've got these two earth signs, energies just flowing between Uranus and this new moon and the sun. And this is gorgeous. This is visionary energy. So this is about breaking out of a patterned way of thinking about a certain aspect of our lives. So for a lot of us, we'll have a patterned way of thinking about what the value of a certain movement or change in our life means, whether it's going to bring up guilt or shame or joy and fun. We'll have kind of a set way we're looking at that aspect of our lives. And if there's somewhere in your life where you're noticing things are changing, shifting, moving, and you have a set way of viewing it, this new moon can really help you to soften maybe that set way of viewing it and welcome in some different tools within that. This new moon can also, with this aspect, it can also break open new insights about the future. And it's kind of funny because I feel like the Aquarius new moon or full moon we just had was doing a lot of this visionary work as well. So we're kind of continuing it here, but through the lens of Virgo. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment. We also have Mars in Virgo, almost perfectly trining Pluto and Capricorn. Mars and Pluto, these guys are like, they want people to get comfortable with the act of change in life, right? Like they're kind of barrier breakers in many ways. And Pluto and Mars are often considered to be, kind of destructive forces. Here in this trine, because they're in earth signs too, it's like, where are you holding yourself back? Where is your transformation really feeling like you have a little resistance? I realized I'm going to get quite a haircut. I mean, not like an extreme haircut, but I realized I was resisting my own transformation in this funny place of wanting to keep my hair really long. And I'm going to shift that around and release that energy, right? So that's one example, the kind of more superficial one maybe. But sometimes, where we hold ourselves in, this is who I am, it's okay to soften a little bit and open to how we want to connect with ourselves in this life. So that's a really powerful trine. And we also have Jupiter in Aquarius trining Venus in Libra. And Jupiter and Venus, these two just want beautiful things to occur, to expand, to explore. Very fun, very dreamy, very kind of fantastical energy. It makes me think of like telling fairy tales all night and kind of letting that free-spirited, elfish belief in magic play. Let it out and play. So these are the three big trines going on during this new moon. So they're all gorgeous, they're all super powerful, and they really, each of them address a different aspect of our growth. So let's get into some of the main messages. Number one, I want to address something that's come up from people questioning for many years of the way I do my work and the way many practitioners do their work, including people who do inner family systems and therapy and things like that, which is if we're just so focused on ourselves all the time, if we're just so focused on our own individual connection to God or divine or the great unknown, however you connect with that, isn't that selfish? How does that help community? How does that help others? This is just self-centered action. I think there's a misunderstanding of what we're talking about when we're talking about self. We're talking about self with the big S. We're talking about self from that place that is, it's not about how we perform our roles in society. It's not about the advertising companies telling us, take care of yourself, give yourself some self-care. If you just get this bubble bath and this face mask and this lip gloss and this car, then you're taking care of yourself and you're letting yourself be in the world. The self doesn't really care about those things, right? Like the self that I'm constantly talking about, the soul song I'm constantly talking about, is one that is connection with that loving, benevolent force that emanates from our heart and our solar plexus and our being. It's one that radiates joy and light, and we're so often detached from that. When we get bombarded by news, when we get bombarded by the intensity of being in this physical world, we can often very quickly, one of the familiar patterns in our culture is to cut ourselves off from the divine. Just immediately cut ourselves off and go to a place of grief and worry. And there's nothing wrong with grief. I think worry has its place in noticing our sensitive points. However, what I'm trying to say here is that this new moon is really inviting us to come back to the practices that allow us to be with that joyful, beautiful light. And I do think that this is an important thing. You can't help anybody else. You can't help your communities. You can't do anything from a meaningful place if you don't feel that connection to your heart, if you don't feel that connection to that self with the big S, the one that doesn't care about makeup or social performance and isn't really concerned with any of that, but is just connected to the innovation of life and how we can help each other and how we can grow and expand into our lives and to our communities and share that light and reconnect with that light. So first of all, I just want to say, let this new moon take you there. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel like you're being selfish by connecting with divine. Don't feel that you're disempowering other people by wanting to take the time to do that, because I guarantee just 15 minutes of doing that every day is huge and is worth so much. So that's the first note. The second note has to do with resistance to visionary thinking, resistance to our transformation. So some of the questions that came up. This may not apply to everybody, but if it applies to you, these are great questions to ask during this new moon phase. Are you feeling resistance about any part of your journey? Is there a place where you just like don't want to even think about opening up my mind to solving this problem, opening that door, what have you? Does it feel as though if you let yourself explore some places of ease and joy, that you're getting away with something? That question, yes. Is there some resistance because you haven't let yourself connect in with your spirit for a while and it feels like you're behind and you're not allowed to? So these are 3 questions that were coming up for me with this new moon, and they're ones to sit with, because often, if we've gotten out of a meditation practice, we've gotten out of a practice of trying to actively view our world from a benevolent place and kind of connect with it, and we've been in a state of overwhelm for a season of life for a few weeks, it can feel a little bit like, am I even allowed to go back to those practices? Because what if I'm bad at them? What if I don't know how to do it? What if it doesn't really work? The inner skeptic can really get in there and hold us back. So if you're feeling any resistance, just start somewhere simple with this new moon. Don't feel like you have to have you come back for this new moon, let's say you come back online, you come back connected in, and that you're supposed to have the whole master plan figured out, that you're supposed to have every negative thought eradicated the second you sit down and feel through this moon. We're not trying to do any of that. We just want to start. We want to give ourselves the permission to come back into connection with wholeness, because Virgo energy is all about being connected to spirit, to the goddess energy, which is involved in, yes, we're in a physical body, and our physical body is communing with our soul energy and our energetics, and they're all in conversation. So how can we have this team working together, not at odds, right? So don't expect yourself to have everything fully fledged and answered, and all your community questions answered, and all the pain in the world answered. That's okay. We just want to get started. We don't want to self-sabotage ourselves out of the joy of connecting to spirit because of guilt or shame, right? It's a vicious cycle. So these are the big themes that are coming up with this new moon. We think that if we pre-grieve or worry, right, about what's going to happen next, that's going to prepare us better for those moments when we get that phone call or we read the news. But truly the best preparation we can do is to make sure that we're connected in and we're feeling held for at least a few minutes a day in that divine energy so we feel safe. And a card wanted to come out, the Hierophant. This guy's been busy in September already, and I'm filming this the day before September, and Hierophant energy has been very strong for this season of the year. 8 of Pentacles, yes, I love this. And there is a lot of earth energy moving through for this new moon. And that is about anchoring in, so connecting our physical body to source, to spirit, to our root system, feeling that heldness. I'm going to pull one more card, and 10 of Swords. Okay. Yes. This is very much this Uranian energy in Taurus trining this new moon is very much about opening ourselves to what is next. And that's the thing. Hierophant's a really interesting card because on the one hand, this can represent a spiritual teacher who's got special knowledge, kind of feeding it to others. But when the Hierophant shows up for me, it's asking us to step into this role in a healthy, non-toxic, old church, non-old church way, which is to know that we are allowed to connect with the divine. There's no gatekeeper that tells us the legitimacy of connecting to our soul, and that we have to kind of take our seat at that table. And this isn't about dominance or showing other people, right? This is about taking that seat at our table within our own dignity, within our own space when we need that. So Hierophant energy is very much speaking to that. It is time to take that step. It is time to embrace the beauty of being in that moment. And now this is followed up with the 8 of Pentacles, which is about the craft of something, right? And yes, this card often ties into the mastering of a craft, the mastering of a technique, of a skill set. But for me, this also is about the true practice is where the joy is. And I've been talking a lot about the practice of just showing up to your spirit. I know we can build up resistance when we haven't shown up for a few weeks or even a few months. I know the resistance can show up when we feel unworthy or when that skeptic voice starts to get really loud for a day or two. But this 8 of Pentacles is a reminder that even in just showing up, even if you don't believe anything will happen, even if you're in a very skeptical state of mind, even if you are in a resistant state of mind, just showing up giving yourself that 10 minutes of practice of connecting to the soul, to creating that friendly energy with the abyss, with the great vastness, right? Really cultivating that friendship with it, cultivating that collaboration with it, just doing it for small amounts of time. Just showing up is extremely powerful. So there's no need to undercut that or undersell it. Show up, see what happens. Those are very practical cards in a lot of ways. Now we also have the card of transformation wanting to pop in here, and one of them. And Ten of Swords to me is letting go. And so, like I said, Uranus wants to take us out of familiar patterning and develop new patterns that are innovative and curious and free-spirited. And a lot of us resist Uranian ways because as a mammal, as an organic species, we are wired to survive. We are wired to look for the familiar. We're wired to look for the berries that we know already are safe. That's been established. This is safe. This is good. There's a part of us, there's a part of our thinking mind and part of our biological, physiological body that is primed and ready to look for the familiar. So we resist it in the more metaphorical or even in the practical ways so often in life. And the Ten of Swords is a reminder that, if there's anywhere where you are changing, you just can't keep the same status quo up forever. Just sit with it. Notice, does it feel good when you think about taking the pressure off of yourself to continue doing it the same way over and over again? Just letting yourself imagine other possibilities. Let yourself write up 20 prototypes on a giant sheet of butcher paper and just have fun with it and see what comes. How does each of those new solutions feel? And that is really what this new moon is about. It's about creating lots of prototypes. Have fun fantasizing. Have fun putting together odd ideas in your mind. Things that you would normally not put together. Try putting them together. Try asking yourself questions about where you're feeling resistance, where you're wanting change. Notice where you stop yourself because you can't do it perfectly when you first show up. And notice where you are nervous to show up because you're worried you're not worthy of it. These are all questions that can come up during this new moon. And at the heart of it, truly at the heart of it is this. You are worthy of feeling that connection to Source, to the big S self, to that place of kindness and love. It is so important. It is not frivolous. It is not superficial. It is not self-centered in the way that advertising companies have made it seem for so long. None of that stuff applies here. So give yourself that during this Virgo season, during this new moon that is so gorgeous, so powerful. This is a time, and we are coming up on a season of deep reflection because this new moon is also heralding in the beginning of Mercury retrograde in Libra. So we will talk about that another time, but have a gorgeous new moon in Virgo. Let your fantasies run wild too. Have fun with that Jupiter and Venus trine as well. I am going to get cozy because it's starting to get a little cooler in the air. I'm really enjoying it, and do some reflection on all of these themes today as we close out. I will be doing a big activation over on my Patreon. I would love to see you there. We have so much fun. It's a lot more personal, and I have a lot of space to just be my weird self over there. So if you're looking to connect, I would love to see you over there, and you can find me on Instagram and my website. I'll talk to you all so soon, and have a gorgeous new moon in Virgo.